Here are your hosts, Cam and Kobe.
Welcome to the Casual Preppers Podcast, the only place for prepping, survival, and entertainment. We are your hosts, Cameron and Kobe, and we are ready to bring survival goodness direct to your ear holes.
Deep in your ears.
As far as we can get. How's it going, Cameron?
It's going good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are we excited today?
We are.
I'm excited.
This is going to be a longie,
Yeah.
not a shorty.
So this is actually part one.
But we had to break it up.
Part one of two. This is World War III Part One.
There's just too much.
There's too much.
There's a whole world to go through.
So, like, what are we talking about? I mean, what are we going to do?
Well, we're going to talk about what is World War I and II. What were they? If you don't know, we're going to teach you.
So we're gonna take a look back on the other world wars that we've had.
But we know there's a lot of threats out there.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of break that down and maybe what World War III could look like.
Sure. Yep.
And then next week we're going to tell you how the F to survive.
Yeah. Because we haven't figured that out yet. We need another week to figure it out.
Apparently we don't know.
In a couple weeks. But guys, today's podcast is brought to you by Tack, the only monthly tactical subscription box with useful professional grade stuff inside. Get 10% off your first Tack Pack with our code Casual Preppers at tackpack.com and join the thousands of satisfied subscribers today. That is 10% off with our code Casual Preppers at tackpack.com. And we have one right here. We just decided we're going to look at it
Real
right now.
fast.
Number one. The Tack Pack Tactical Pin.
Look at
Bang.
this freaking nice little box.
Yeah, it comes all
like
fancy.
A diamond necklace.
Yeah. He's like,
So if you like those tactical pins,
I ought to like try to put my hand in there and get it. You could slam it shut.
Tack's got a real nice one for you.
Yeah, we don't have to do that, whatever. The next is the Breakthrough
Pretty Woman, no.
Clean 3-for-1. It is a battle rope board cleaner. Very cool.
Yeah,
Always
there you
good
go.
to have. Yep. Next thing is the Hogue 15-degree vertical polymer grip.
Yeah.
So you're always getting cool stuff like that from Tack Pack.
Like a foreskin grip,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then the Speedy Sharp blade sharpener for all the blades you get from Tack Pack.
You
And
sharpen all day long when we're sitting around.
The Dapper 100 key card knife.
This is a cool freaking thing.
It's very cool, huh?
It's a nice little knife that goes on a keychain and it's to open letters and people's jugulars.
Exactly. That's what it's for. So
There you go.
make sure to use our code Casual Preppers.
Listener reviews starts now.
So this one came from Apple Podcasts, iTunes, 5 stars. This is from Pamurda. He says, or she says, or they say, I found this podcast in my search for a quality, informative podcast for prepping. I'm still looking for that. Here I just found two kind of funny guys who stock up on protein and can easily defeat 100 duck-sized horses.
Protein.
Yeah,
At least you got that out.
At least you got that. Yeah. So if you guys want to be part of this portion of the podcast, go to iTunes, go to Facebook, go to the Kindle book on Amazon, leave us a 5-star review, and make it awesome.
It's a mad, mad world.
So guess what?
The world is mad.
Did you know that all the water you've been drinking is going to kill you?
Eventually.
Surprise, surprise. The contamination of U.S. drinking water with man-made forever chemicals is far worse than previously estimated, with some of the highest levels found in Miami, which is not surprising, Philadelphia, and New Orleans, said a report on Wednesday by an environmental watchdog group. We're watching this environment.
Is that their slogan?
Yeah.
We're watching this environment.
Come be part of us. We're watching this environment. The chemicals resistant to breaking down in the environment are known as perfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS.
Oh,
PFAS.
those things piss me off.
Some have been linked to cancers, liver damage, low birth weight, and other health problems. So they're finding that a bunch of this, even in bottled water, there's a higher than safe content. Thank you, FDA, for doing absolutely nothing.
Just taking our money.
Preventing good things and promoting trash.
And burning through
Like, it's
cash.
super frustrating.
Promoting trash and burning through cash. FDA.
Join us as well.
That's what
We're
we
promoting all these different institutions.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's crazy.
Of the tap water samples taken, 44 sites in 31 states and Washington, D.C. Only one location, Meridian, Mississippi, which relies on 700-foot deep wells, I didn't know that, had no detectable PFAS. Only Seattle and Alabama had levels below 1 part per trillion in the limit. So that's pretty freaky.
Yeah.
So we've got all kinds of contaminated water.
So you can't drink water anymore.
Flint's like, I told y'all.
Welcome to the club. That's what they're saying.
So anyway, I don't know that any of us, I haven't ever had confidence in FDA protecting me from cancers. So this is just to confirm that the water that we so think that we're blessed with, that's clean and pure, is laced with freaking cancer chemicals.
Sounds about right.
Anyway.
So also, the coronavirus. It's a glorious little thing that we've been watching.
Sure is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So recently, I think it was yesterday, the entire city of Wuhan, China has been put on quarantine.
Oh, yeah.
The entire city. That's
11 million?
11 million people. That's a bunch of Chinamen.
That is.
And ladies and kids. It's a bunch.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is we now have our very own case
How
of
do you
it.
contain 11 million people?
You don't. You don't.
Well, actually, they're already probably contained there. Can't get out. They've been trying forever.
And we have our own case of the coronavirus here in the United States these days, in Washington State.
Yeah.
And I actually saw something this morning that they maybe think there's another one in L.A. Maybe.
I saw that too, yeah.
But who knows?
California, no surprise.
No surprise at all. So the in Wuhan, the supermarket shelves
I think
are
Australia
empty.
too.
Oh, really?
They were
there's
kind
a
of
bunch.
determine if it's...
There's a bunch over there. The supermarket shelves in Wuhan completely empty, sold out of produce as residents hoarded supplies and isolated themselves at home.
I wondered if that was going to happen.
Could you imagine a whole city on quarantine of 11 million people? That's more people than are in New York City, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is.
Petrol stations were overwhelmed. That's gas stations for us United States people. Petrol stations. As drivers stocked
petroleum
up
jelly?
on fuel amid rumors that reserves had run out, and local residents said pharmacies had sold out of face masks. So there's that.
Time for bras and undies.
I know. You do what you got to do. Screening has been put in place for passengers arriving from at least some Chinese cities at airports in the United States. So they're checking people for fevers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's you got to be careful.
I think they should just start rectal temperature checking them all. I ain't going to the United States. They're going to stick something in your butt so you can come off the plane.
Yep. So 17 deaths have been confirmed so far with 630 people infected.
Ugh.
So
I was looking at the CDC on their little polymerase chain thing, the quick test for it. They're pretty close to having it out. So
Are they?
Like kind of how we can flu swab in clinics and stuff like that. So
Well, that's fun.
yeah, that's terrifying.
I think I need to go watch Contagion or Outbreak or something.
Actually, medical tip real quick is just about the virus.
Oh, good.
How to save everybody from it.
I'm happy for that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So today, guys, World War III. What is it? What might it be? What
Hasn't happened yet.
Has it? Are we in World War III right now? I don't know. Maybe we are. Actually, I saw a comment. We've been in World War III since 2001.
Really?
Yeah, somebody said that. All right.
He's just got his rifle sitting in his basement listening to podcasts.
Just cleaning out his gun.
Kill everybody.
So before we kind of get to this hypothetical World War III, we thought, hey, we've had some world wars before. They were a great time. Let's go back and look at
See what happened.
What happened? How did they come about? What were they like? What were the effects? Because if it happens again, there's going to be some similarities, right?
Oh, for sure. Just gets worse and worse.
And incidentally, Cam and I went to 1917 last night. About
amazing.
It was a fantastic movie.
It's
fantastic.
Yeah. It was done so well.
Yeah.
Like I dreamt about it all night.
Did you?
Terrified.
Terrified. Yeah, so that war looked like it was horrible, and I'm glad I wasn't around
really
for
did.
it. But let's go back to that war, World War I. So our very first one, this was that popped our World War cherry.
Yeah.
World War I. So let's just talk about some of the basic facts about it. You know, what were the main causes, some of the basic facts. It lasted about 4 years, 1914 to around 1918. Only about 17 million people were killed. No big deal.
Not bad.
And there's like another 20 million who got injured. And that, horrible, man. So there was kind of two power blocks that this was fought between. So the Allies, Britain, France, Russia, and later United States, obviously. And then there was the Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Ottoman Turkey. So those were sort of the main people involved. So as I got into this, it's crazy to think that this basically happened. A lot of it was because of these mutual defense agreements that a lot of these countries had.
And
Yeah. So at the time, Russia had one with
Those
Serbia.
are crappy deals.
I know.
Like I've played games where I'm like, I don't want to be mutually.
Yeah, I know.
Because I don't want to get pulled into a.
Exactly.
And this is exactly what.
This is why. Yeah. So Russia and Serbia had one. Germany and Austria-Hungary. France and Russia. Britain and France and Belgium, and then Japan and Britain. So basically, you can see how like one little thing can lead to half the world shooting at each other.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You got punched in the face? I guess I got to come over now.
I got to get punched in the face.
You
now.
want me to stand behind you?
Yeah. So I think we all know about Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He was assassinated, right? June 1914. I love the name of the group, the Black Hand.
I know.
I was like,
I actually never even heard of the name.
I want to be a part of that group. So it's a Serbian nationalist terrorist group called the Black Hand sent troops to assassinate the Archduke. They were successful. So basically, it led Austria-Hungary declaring war on Serbia. And so then if you go back and look what's going on here, there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Russia, Serbia, that are buddies with each other, and they're not going to let anybody get killed.
Yeah.
So then Russia began to mobilize to defend its alliance with Serbia, and then Germany declared war on Russia, and then everything got crazy. That's about the time this stuff just went down. But then in 1915, Germany declared the waters surrounding the British Isles to be a war zone. And then German U-boats sunk several commercial and passenger vessels, including some U.S. ships. So this was kind of the point at where the U.S. is like, crap, we're going to have to get involved in this. And they didn't want to. And then Germany sunk 4 more U.S. merchant ships the following month. And then on April 2nd, Woodrow Wilson appeared before Congress and declared war against Germany. Right?
Ding, ding.
And so
the Great War.
Here we are, the Great War, World War I. So you can see how something is simple. I mean, it's not simple, but it's little as assassination of an Archduke can turn into the entire world trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And there's no telling how it could start. Like, this could happen today, something like this. We'll talk about later some of the alliances that are in the world right now, some of these mutual defense agreements. And it really...
It's disturbing how many countries we're agreeing to defend.
Yeah. And so back at home, we're talking about us here in the U.S., and I know we have a lot of people overseas. We have some UK listeners, and we have some Canadians, and we have some Australians, but we're going to talk a little bit about what happened back here in the U.S., and then we will also talk about like over in the UK a little bit. But so what were the effects on us here at home during this war? Socially, it was a huge upheaval during the war, during World War I. Millions of women that have never worked before had to enter the workforce because there were so many men out fighting the war.
Yeah.
And so like that really changed the dynamics back at home. And like I said, this could be something that could happen in World War III. Some of these, we obviously have women already in war or that are working. Women that are working now, but it could change things back at home like
I feel
crazy.
like it'd be opposite now.
Yeah.
Like the women are all fighting. Man, you got to go back to
You
work.
guys have got to put on your pants.
Come on.
Take your skirts off, guys. One of the crazy things that happened during World War I is the flu epidemic of 1918. And because of this world war, the epidemic was way worse than it would have been. It killed an estimated 20 to 50 million people. And I don't know why there's such a big discrepancy, like a 30 million people discrepancy.
Give or take.
Yeah, give or take 30 million. I don't know. A bunch of people died.
We don't know. It's
we
a
don't
lot.
know. But World War I contributed to the spread just because, the global nature of the war. There were so many people traveling to different places, soldiers, and then the soldiers were living in these horrible, horrible conditions. We saw that in that movie last night. It's just mud and rats and disgusting, nowhere to take a shower. I mean, it killed so many people. Just that.
Nowhere to take a shower.
A shower, yeah. So that actually contributed to the spread of the Spanish flu. Many believed because of the chemical warfare and the poison gas, and then the lice and the rats, that sort of contributed to the way that the virus spread, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, like I said, it's estimated that over 50 million people died of the flu, almost 3 times more than actually died in the war. So it's insane how many people died in those really 4 years because of war and because of that pandemic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
1/5 of the world's population were attacked by the virus. And 25% of the U.S. population got it. I think we've talked about that before, but it's insane what that did. And the war contributed to that. At the time, manufacturing and production all like shot up. This was actually kind of good.
War always does, yeah.
Yeah, well, especially for the United States, we kind of...
This is where we became...
Yeah, we became
power.
like the industrial
Starting
leader.
to, yeah.
Yep. So this was actually kind of good, but there was some negative effects on the economy. Inflation went crazy and corporations started reducing wages, laying off workers because everything was so expensive. The cost of living went up, housing, food, clothing, other essentials. In 1919, prices rose at an average of more than 15%, which is insanely fast rise. And then 24 million men were registered and nearly 3 million inducted into the military services via a draft.
Wow.
So 3 million people were drafted into this war. We'll talk about the draft as well a little bit later because that could be a huge component to a World War III as well. During this time, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, that's who Cam really loves, launched a massive campaign to teach Americans to economize on their food budgets. And then that's where like the Victory Gardens started, was in World War I.
I didn't know it was that far back.
Yeah, apparently
For some reason I thought it was World War II.
I always thought it was World War II as well, but apparently it was World War I just because...
Yeah, it's
because of the shortages of everything that we had to. There was just no way to get enough food and enough stuff to make it happen. So gross farm income increased more than 230% from 1914 to 1919. But the United States, that's when they started doing things like wheatless Wednesdays and meatless Tuesdays due to poor harvests. And then there was also fuelless Mondays and gasless Sundays. I'd never heard of those before.
So you don't eat and have gas.
Yeah. So
indigestion on Sunday.
They're trying to preserve coal and gas for the war effort. And the only way they could do that is say, hey, don't be driving on Sundays and don't use any of your coal on Mondays.
What if that would have got me out of church?
Probably not. You'd have to walk to church at that point.
Nope. You got to go.
So there was obviously with the men dying, the women taking jobs, the family dynamics changed quite a bit. So there was like a ton of like kids with single moms.
Yeah.
And so that did some weird stuff to the social components of the United States.
Sadly, without a war, our country's back at that.
We are back there, yeah. The German citizens were actually required to register with the federal government and carry registration cards at all times.
Really?
See, I didn't know this about World War I either. So there was 2,048 German citizens that were imprisoned in 1917, and then they were released in 1920. Wow. Which is crazy. So
I didn't know that.
There was a lot of like allegations of spying and things like that for the Germans. So I was like, man, I don't know why I don't hear those stories a lot from World War I. It's usually World War II where you hear those. So then you go to back overseas, right? The economic impact meant that there were shortages of produce, tons of food shortages. I mean, it was insane. So there was rationing of bread and tea, and you know how they like their tea over there in the UK, sugar and meat, and that was all introduced in 1918. They used a ton of propaganda in World War I, and I didn't know they did this in World War I either. I always thought this was a World War II thing.
Yeah.
So like they were saying that the war was going fantastic. You know, we're just killing all the Germans. There's no big deal. And apparently that obviously was not going. I mean, there was a ton of people dying, right?
Yeah.
And then they had something called Atrocity Propaganda, which some of these are hilarious, dude. It's basically a form of advertising that they used during World War I, which focused on embellishing the most violent acts committed by the German and Austro-Hungarian armies. So they were depicted as like savages, like they were just like out raping people's faces, and like it was just like horrible stuff that they were putting on these posters.
I believe it. Yeah.
And so after this war, pretty much entire of Europe was in debt, like an insane amount of debt.
It really devastated.
And so actually that's where, like I said, the U.S. was able to kind of rise up a little bit in the ranks of the world economy and kind of become who we are today. But so that's sort of a background of World War I and a lot of things that happened. There's a ton more, but
oh my gosh,
you only go into so much.
It's so hard. Whatever historians listening right now, it's like, you missed this. You don't remember talking about that.
Yeah,
like,
there's so
going to be a ton. And World War II is even more clear on our minds. So I'm going to get raped. Sure. I'm glad I'm the one that's doing this.
Yep.
The one thing, like when you're saying like the Germans being held in prison and stuff, and you know, having like our country's so diverse. Like, can any war? It's like oh, we're going to war with you and you and you. You guys, they're going to be like even more segregation and all that.
Yeah, like I wondered if, World War III breaks out right now, in between, 4 or 5 different factions on the other side. Like, would we do those same things again?
I hope, yeah.
Like, would we?
We went to war with Mexico. That's going to be rough.
Yeah, I guess that
It's
would
like
be
going
bad.
to war with ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like a civil war.
It would be bad.
But yeah, it just makes you think though, like that's going to be a huge complication.
For sure, yeah.
So anyway, so World War II was the most destructive conflict in history. It cost more money, damaged more property, killed more people, and caused more far-reaching changes than any other war in history. So obviously they get worse. So World War III
We're on a path
is
here.
going to be a disaster.
The
It's not going to be
trajectory.
a good thing.
The trajectory is up.
Yeah, it's going to be like
Worse.
straight up. An estimated total of 70 to 85 million people perished, which was like 3% of the world population in 1940.
Oh my gosh.
So civilian deaths totaled 50 to 55 million.
That's insane.
Civilian deaths are just
I guess that makes sense with the
the
Holocaust,
Germans,
right?
really made that go up. That number increased a bit. And so did Russia.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
But military deaths from all causes totaled 21 to 25 million of military deaths. So the civilian side, 50 to 55. Military, 21 to 25. So you were safer to be drafted
You were.
in Europe.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
Go to war because you're going to die.
Yeah.
It's estimated 1.5 million children died during the Holocaust.
That's ridiculous.
1.2 million of them were Jewish and tens of thousands gypsies. The Battle of the Bulge was the largest and deadliest battle for the U.S. troops even to date. More than 80,000 American deaths.
That's insane. That's
And
an
then-
insane number.
It is. And then obviously the worst part about World War, well, not the worst part, but one of the worst parts is the use of nuclear weapons by
Sure.
the United States.
And that's sort of
it was going to happen.
That's one of those things that's kind of debated. Like, was it good or was it bad at that point?
Super tough moral question.
Yeah, like I don't even know
because
what to
Japan
say.
was not going to budge.
No.
But at the same time,
We
dropped it on
lot
the
of people.
civilians, which
Yeah.
is that's a horrible deal.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. The other one that dropped, did you know it was called the Boxcar?
No, I didn't know that.
The other
actually.
plane, we just know the Enola Gay, but
Yeah.
the Boxcar was the other one that dropped the bomb on Nagasaki, and his name was Frederick Bach, the pilot. I was like,
Oh, that's why they call it the
interesting.
Boxcar.
Yeah,
That
I
makes
didn't ever
sense.
hear about that. So, so there's a ton of things, like tons of detail about the start of World War II, but just real brief. So the devastation from the Great War, World War I, destabilized Europe completely.
Oh yeah.
Tons of poverty, and so it was a big freaking mess. And Germany really got hammered with the Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah, they didn't like it.
You did everything.
Yeah.
You're responsible. You got to pay it back. I found this interesting. Did you know that Germany actually paid back its last payment for World War I in 2010?
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't even know they.
Well, who are they paying?
That's what I don't know.
Like, where's the money going
I
to?
don't know. It was probably France.
Yeah,
They're the
it's-
ones that really came down hard
They
on them.
got raped.
So obviously that's why Germany was like, we're taking France out.
Yeah,
like,
for
right
sure.
off the
Yeah.
bat. Anyway, so yeah, Germany, took all the blame and repayment, and it kind of led to Germany creating the freaking German war machine, the Nazi war machine.
Yeah.
Communism and the gained strength in the wake of economic problems, and then you've got the fascism. It ended up being big. Dictatorships started to rise. Germany, Italy, Japan, Soviet Union, and that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
The dictatorships, you should look into obviously we've seen what it does.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This I didn't know about. The Czechoslovakia had tons of Germans in it, and in 1938, surrounded by German territory, Hitler wanted to annex the Sudetenland. I don't know how you say that. An area in western Czechoslovakia where Germans lived, and the prime minister of the British prime minister,
Chamberlain. Yeah.
he was like, "Go ahead, but you're not taking any more."
Yeah.
And Hitler's like, "Okay," and then took all of it. He ended up seizing the entire country in 1939.
Yeah, they say that's a lot of the reason he gained his traction and strength. Was
Yeah.
like a lot of Chamberlain
Well, the
just
freaky
saying,
thing is,
whatever.
like, look at what just happened. What, in 2017 or 18? The annexation of
Crimea. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just like look at what we're doing.
Yeah, that
Like,
was
look
actually
at-
earlier. I think that was like
Maybe it was.
that was in
so
Obama's
fast.
presidency, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like
Oh, yeah,
Russia's
for sure.
starting. Like countries are showing those
Yeah.
same things. Axis powers, Germany, Japan, Italy, formed a coalition called the Axis powers. Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, and 2 German-created states, Croatia and Slovakia, eventually joined. Then Germany invaded Poland. Mm-hmm. There's a whole thing there, that they staged that Poland had attacked. Anyway, so Germany invaded Poland. British and France joined the war like 2 or 3 days later, or declared war on Germany. And then Germany just went in and pulverized France. And I guess it was split. I didn't know it was occupied partly by like the resistant forces of France down in the lower part. Soviet Union and Germany had some problems with each other for the longest time anyway. They were claiming that, there was that whole thing with the burials of the Polish armies that they, Germany was blaming it on Soviet Union. Soviet Union said that it was the Germans, but it was the Soviet Union.
I tell you what, though, World War II history is just fascinating.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. That's why I'm like, there's just no way you can talk about all of it.
Talking about like the Blitzkrieg and like the way that basically every German soldier had meth on them all the time. So that's the reason they could go for days and days and days.
No kidding.
And they were never scared.
I didn't know about that.
It was like it wasn't like meth.
It was like Vikings.
It was a form of meth. Yeah. So they would take this and they would just go for days. And so they're like, they got to stop at some point, but they just kept on going and taking that meth. It made them fearless.
It truly made them seem like the master race.
So they were like berserkers, basically going out there.
Crazy.
So, man,
I didn't know that they used that too.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then, Pearl Harbor in United States entered the war. So that was brief, and I know it doesn't catch all the details. But anyway, the effects on civilians. So I looked through like all the different countries and the effect of World War II, and Wikipedia itself is just like pages and pages of different countries. So first, the direct effects of war: civilians without homes from bombing, and they got they basically, like France itself. When those armies take over, they just basically claim everything.
Yeah, they just take over the cities.
They take, like, France was paying over 20% of all of its food and everything, probably more than that, to the German army.
Jeez, man.
And then curfews in France for when a country's occupied by another country, they don't want any of the civilians out, so you get isolated. You don't get any food. And Germany or Great Britain started to do the same thing, curfews, and they started rationing as well. Actually, this I thought was fascinating. Canada was sending like 25% of all of its food and stuff to Great Britain. And then the United States obviously was fueling all the ammunition and before we even entered the war. Millions of civilians died from carpet bombings, traps, crossfire, stuff like that. Crossfire. Then the atomic bomb obviously killed tons of civilians. Here in the homeland, United States, we were terrified of Japan and attacking the West Coast, taking Hawaii. People that were already in the United States that were citizens that were Japanese descent, we were terrified of them.
Yep.
What a mess it made just in the country for that alone. And then just like World War I, women began to secure jobs as welders, electricians, and really become a huge part, which was a good thing. Also, Canada had denied men once the draft and everything started going, that the men couldn't take those jobs back. Like,
oh, really? The women got to keep them, huh?
Yeah, they were the ones that were required. You had to be female to take those jobs, which
that's crazy.
And war bonds was a huge part of World War II.
Yeah,
and the rubber consumption and like all those resources to fuel, to support the other the Allies, and then the United States itself. There was a restriction of rubber consumption. You couldn't buy vehicles, and then all the other different, like the gas thing and stuff, restrictions on all those supplies that were going to fuel the war. And this is when really, like you were saying too, the United States started to build its economy. It became like a powerhouse at this point. And and that's one thing we'll talk about is we don't have that ability now. Like we've been using so much outside of the United States. Not that we can't do it, but we're not in the shape that we were.
Yeah, it's different.
Right before World War II. And there was even propaganda about, I don't know if I have it in here or what it said, but basically it was like, save more to give more to them, meaning the army. Like they were rationing in the United States to limiting the use for civilians so that they could send more over to soldiers. So there's a ton. I mean, it goes on and on about all the effects of it in different countries and the different curfews and the famine and the, all that stuff.
Yeah, the reason we say these things, obviously, is because, you know, a lot of these things will repeat if there's another world war.
Yeah,
it's not
it doesn't, like, even though we're so advanced and we have an abundance of things.
Much of this will be similar.
Easily go right back to rationing and limiting. Because you got to feed an army, and that's the hardest part about it all.
And it's not a war like we've known. You know, it's not like the Iraqi war. It's not like the Afghanistan war. This is different. This is
once it's a world war and there's
different.
Multiple countries in the defense of what we need to supply allies.
So different.
It's impossible.
It's a completely different animal.
Yeah.
You know?
So, and then, like I mentioned, the executive order from Franklin Roosevelt to basically they just took all the Japanese and put them into those camps. So you lose your independence as an American citizen.
Yeah.
You lost your independence.
Yeah, and
that could happen again.
That couldn't happen again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Terrifying.
If you just say we go to war with Russia, if you're a Russian American,
you lose your independence.
You could absolutely.
Welcome to our free country.
Yeah.
You're imprisoned.
Here's your cell.
Scary.
Yeah.
During the spring of 1942, a rationing program, so just a little more detail on this, established to set the limits of amount of gas, food, clothing consumers could purchase. So you were limited on these things.
Yeah.
So like right now, if you would go to the grocery store, it's like, no, you can only buy 2 loaves of bread, or you can only, like, that's terrifying to think. If you're not prepared now and the shelves aren't already cleared off, they're going to be like, you can't buy this much. Like, so you're already down to the bare necessities.
Like, I can't even imagine.
Oh, man.
Like,
there's the
war,
saying.
it's a whole other thing, man.
Do with less so they'll have enough was the propaganda, and it was to help the troops to get what they needed for us to do with less.
Yeah.
Collection of scrap metal, aluminum cans, rubber, all of which were recycled and used to produce armaments. So it's just like every resource possible went into this war. Have you ever looked at the amount that the Allies versus the Axis, how much money in investment? Like the Allies, it was outrageous, like 2.3 or 203 billion.
Ooh.
And the Axis was like 50 or 20 billion.
Really?
I was like, why is it so
That's crazy? Yeah.
And then other effects of World War III, basically China became what it is with the communism. Russia helped take back Manchuria from Japan. And that was a whole nother thing. The civilians in China suffered huge in World War II. Like some of the biggest casualties of, not just the Holocaust, but China lost a ton. So Russia helped get it back, and then China became what it is today. Like, it's massive and powerful. Communism obviously took over. And then the Red Fear, that's the kickoff of Cold War. It's just like, okay, Russia.
Nuclear arms races. And
shook hands, and we were grateful to stop Germany, and then Russia just.
It's like immediately after. Like we hated each other. Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, okay. And then they flipped each other off.
Yep.
Went our separate
Built a wall in Berlin. And
get out of Europe. We're going to own it. So anyway.
Crazy stuff.
A lot of stuff.
So we didn't want this. It's hard not to make this feel just like a history lesson.
The history thing's exciting, but it's kind of boring for a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to like that. But we bring this in because the scope of a world war is so different than just like a regular war that we've known in our lifetimes. I mean, Vietnam was huge, but this is a world war. This is a different thing, man. And
I think a lot of times, like, you look at the whole, like, how are we going to, our military, what are they going to do? You don't think about the effect it's going to have
at home.
And that's the scariest part.
For sure. Hey, Cam, did you know that most subscription boxes are full of samples and junk you'll never use? But not BattleBox. It's the monthly subscription box for men, full of solid gear for adventure seekers, survivalists, outdoor enthusiasts, and casual preppers. Each month, BattleBox sends you the coolest selection of hand-picked outdoor survival and everyday carry gear, all valued at far more than what you'd normally pay. You never know what's in the next box, but here's a sampling of what users received this month. The Ironclad Impact Protection Gloves. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Yes. The Climate Stash 18-liter day pack. Really cool little pack.
It is a cool pack.
And then I think this is it Koalatry? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's Koalatry.
Koalatry. Haswell survival knife. Really cool looking knife. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
And do you know the Koalatry? I think they're actually from Utah. They're based in Utah.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. They're neighbors. All this badassness starts at about $30 a month. They've shipped almost 1 million boxes and won Best Men's Subscription Box of 2017. Our listeners get a free tactical knife when you sign up at trybattlebox.com/Cam. Casual Preppers. That's trybattlebox.com/casualpreppers. Get your first battle box plus a free tactical knife at trybattlebox.com/casualpreppers.
It's totally worth it.
Do it.
Totally worth it.
Before World War III starts. All right?
Yeah.
Do it. So, Cam, we've kind of looked at the past, and there was a lot of different threats and a lot of things that happened in World War I, World War II. So what are the current threats today that could make World War III a possibility? That's kind of what we're going into
Surprisingly, Germany is not really
They're not
scary
there
right now.
That's funny, isn't it? Because they were the bad guys.
Two wars that just came up.
They're just like, all right, we've had enough. No more war for us. We're like, we're on good terms.
We're going to sit 3 out, maybe.
Yeah, we're on good terms with Germany. That's
that's
a nice
great,
thing.
and that's a great country to be at good terms.
It is, but some of these other ones scare the crap out of me.
Terrify me.
Russia being one of them.
Yeah.
I just think that Russia is going to perpetually be our enemy, and they're always going to be scary.
Always, they hate us.
Yeah,
We hate them.
We hate them. I don't hate the people.
All the movies, they got to be pissed off at Hollywood because
They do. Yeah, they're always the
Russia's
bad guys.
the bad guy.
Always.
I want to play the good guy. I'm the pretty good guy.
Wherefore I'm always the bad guy. Why can't I bring puppies and stuff like that to people?
Why can't I fight? I don't know. Why can't I fight?
That's an Indian.
Oh man, I don't know why. Like sometimes
Russians.
it's like you can't.
Right now, it's really.
I can't bend that accent back.
That was a beautiful moment.
Why can't I just be?
Yeah. So Russia, according to an annual survey of national security threats to the United States, Vladimir Putin's Russia remains the primary threat to American interests in Europe and the most pressing threat to the United States. So, and you know what? Russia, they're huge.
They're friggin' massive.
They've got so much. They got like half the world of landmass.
Yeah,
I swear.
That's why I think it's gonna be one of those back and forth battles to where we're too big, they're too big. Like it's just gonna be to the devastation of the planet.
Yeah, and there's always something going on over there. Those guys are just like,
no,
they're never just like resting on their laurels. No. They're always like, oh, I'm gonna do something crazy today.
Work on my tank.
Yeah, I'm the one up yesterday. Watch this.
Look
always
at the chaos on the have you ever watched videos of just driving in Russia?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I don't even want to go to war because it's just like driving jeeps straight at you and
yeah, it's crazy. But in December, Russian President Vladimir Putin, we all know him, announced that Russia was deploying its first hypersonic nuclear-capable missiles, which he boasted were capable of evading U.S. air defense systems. This obviously is concerning.
Yeah, just a bit.
We don't like to hear these things, and they're always putting lots of money into these types of things and weapons, and they've got pretty much. I think I was looking at the numbers. They're really close to having about the same amount of nukes that we do.
Wow.
So, not good.
Awesome.
Right? So Russia is always a scary one.
Trade it 1 for 1.
Yeah.
You fire one, we'll fire one.
So the next one is Iran. And this one has been in the news lately, right? This one is a little bit less scary, but it's still a threat. It's still a pretty big threat. So obviously tensions reached a new low on January 3rd, which is not that long ago, 20 days ago from now, when a U.S. drone assassinated Soleimani. That's the top military commander in the country. And we remember that because everybody was pissed off about it. And then what was it? A couple days later or something, where they started sending missiles to our two bases in Iraq, where they missed. They missed on purpose. They didn't hit anything other than a commercial airliner from the Ukraine. Man. So that was a mess, and that scared a bunch of people. And that honestly, that thing right there is sort of the genesis of this idea of doing World War III as a podcast.
The thing is, the thing that scares, that's exactly what triggered it. Huh?
Yeah, for sure.
The thing that scares me about countries like Iran, they're the ones that'll come slap you on the back of the head and run off.
Exactly.
You're like, what? Where did that come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Like they don't face you, and they're kind of cowardly. Hopefully there's no Iranians listening. I doubt it.
Yeah. So according to the Heritage Foundation, Iran is the most hostile state to U.S. interests in the Middle East, and its threat capability is growing. And do they have nukes? Have they had nukes?
Sure.
Are they still making
Why not?
nukes?
I'm sure.
We don't know. And that's where part of the problem lies, is we're trying to stop them from doing that. So Iran is always a classic World War III possibility. Right. You know? The next one is China. We know about these boys. They're huge. They got a lot of people, right? Their nation is projected to become the world's biggest economy around 2050. So
thought it was already there.
They were, being communist for so long and not really opening up a lot of stuff to free trade for a long time.
Yeah.
They had slow growth, but once they did that, oh my gosh, they are freaking
It kind of like
killing it.
Yeah, gave them this. It's so weird how communism, what it can build, and then once it breaks free, it's like once you get rid of it.
So it continues to wage economic war on the U.S., using an army of hackers and spies to steal vital economic information. That's kind of part of the backdrop to Trump's trade war with them. We know there's been a lot of stuff going back and forth on trade with the United States and China, and that's always an issue that could become a war. You just don't know. When you're dealing with people's money, and they're always like violating trademarks, stealing technology.
Oh my gosh, they have no shame.
They don't care. They got Apple stores that they just made up out of nowhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
It's like that meme. I just love like intelligence. It shows like all these people fishing. And it has like the fishing bucket.
Yeah.
And it shows Japan, or it shows China fishing out of people's buckets.
That's 100% what's going on.
Yeah.
So, and then there's also some other things, there's a lot of tension between the China and U.S. in the Pacific region on those disputed South China Sea islands. A lot of weird stuff going on there all the time.
And they're just like setting up bases, forward bases all over.
Yep.
I'll be honest, like for me, China scares me more than anybody.
Do they? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Russia to me is like powerful military and just brutes, like tough, scary in that regard. China's like, we'll outsmart you.
Yeah.
And we will screw you up in ways that you've never seen.
And the manpower is just insane. They have so many people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's like World War Z when there's piling up on the wall to get over the wall.
They don't care.
They just send them billions of them.
They've probably got people like right now training to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Was they Russian?
Now I'm going to Russia. I'm one behind on the voices.
You're always.
Whatever country we're talking about, it was the former one that we were talking about.
Yeah, that's really funny. All right, so
I am part of wall team.
Number 1 wall team.
I am top tier wall claw.
The next one is North Korea. A lot of people aren't really scared of these dudes, but I just think
they're a wild card.
Yeah, Kim Jong-un is just crazy enough to do something nuts out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So according to satellite imagery, recent activity at 2 bases indicates that North Korea is continuing to develop long-range ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, that can be armed with nuclear warheads and used to target the U.S. So that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Kim Jong-un, he's a nut job.
Total nut
right?
job.
And like that's the thing. He's so crazy, and they have over 1 million ground troops.
That's crazy.
1 million North Korean ground troops, which is crazy. I mean, a lot of people think they're really not a threat just because of kind of where they are. I mean, really the biggest
They're
threat.
definitely a threat.
Really the biggest threat is an ICBM with a nuke, and they could hit Hawaii. I mean, what was that?
And then South Korea.
Yeah, and then South Korea, obviously, and we have a ton of troops there.
There's like some pros and cons to each army, which I actually will probably talk a little bit about.
Oh, good. What was that? A couple of years ago, where Hawaii got that text, and everybody thought that North Korea had sent a missile.
Oh my gosh!
So
could easily happen.
You can say what you want, but there's people that are scared about that, right? So World War III comes around. My guess is one of these players
there's going to be, or they're going to be together.
Multiple. That's what I'm saying. It's going to either be one or several or all. Could you imagine if all these people got together and said,
that would be huge.
We're going to take out the United States.
Yeah.
That's when the world ends. That's Armageddon.
Seriously.
That's it.
Because I don't think NATO can do much.
No.
Should we involve ourselves in this?
Yeah.
Or
no, let's not worry about it. So we talked about mutual defense agreements. Let's talk about a couple that we have right now.
Nice, yeah.
The United States has. So we have a mutual defense agreement right now with Japan. Obviously, we're on good terms these days. Everything's fine. They apologize.
PlayStation's great.
Yeah.
Toyota's are going strong.
Love it.
Subaru's great.
Japan, Australia, Korea, South Korea, the Philippines, and the UK. And there's a bunch of other ones as well.
All surrounding areas that China and Russia all have direct access.
So there you go. So those are mutual defense agreements that the United States currently has. So who knows what could go on if something happens out there.
It's terrifying.
It's always an issue. So we wanted to talk about what types of wars this could end up being. But first, I wanted to look at the draft real quick because they actually...
I always like talking about this.
I saw something...
It's like you always think, what are my... well, I get drafted.
I saw something the other day that the Selective Service website crashed the day that the Iran was shooting missiles.
Wow. People were
There was that many people worried about it. Like, what is the draft? Am I going to get drafted?
Yeah.
And so they said, just chill for a bit until we can get our website back up. So the last time we had a draft was in 1973. It's been a long time, right? And the Selective Service is the one who does this, and they continue to be funded every year.
The SS?
Yeah, the SS. $23 million a year to run this, the SS. There's about 100 people in the U.S.
$23 million a year?
$23 million a year.
Really?
Yep.
And the website crashed?
The website crashed. They just don't. Their servers suck. Apparently, can't get good enough service. 100 people in the United States work for the Selective Service to keep this thing rolling. So they actually have the machines like when
23 million divided by. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. So there's actually the machines that do this. If the draft ever goes on, there's actually 2 clear fish tank like hexagons. And it's manufactured by Garin. It's the same company that makes devices
for the lotto.
For the lotto,
really?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's insane.
Makes sense.
It makes sense.
They're good at it.
So the first machine has white ping pong balls, and it has a precedence number with numbers from 1 to 366. Right, so that's for every day of the year with a leap day in there. And the other has blue balls in it. We all know about this. And it has dates from January 1st to December 31st, and those are the birthdays. In each machine, the rack drop balls in the tank, and they mix until one rolls into the tube. Each birthday gets paired with a precedence number. And so that's basically how it all works, and then they pick those numbers. The first to be called would be men whose 20th birthday falls during that year. So if you're going to turn 20 this year, just pray that there's no World War III because you're the first ones called. Wow. Right? So then followed by that, it's going to be ages 21 through 25. But we all know that 18-year-olds have to register for Selective Service. So they're going to be like the last. The 18 and 19-year-olds are the last ones, which is kind of interesting. And so then the next step would be that the state directors and reserve forces officers would report for duty, and the men with low lottery numbers would then be physically, mentally, and morally evaluated to determine if they are fit for military. Yeah, I know.
We're screwed.
So this is crazy. Listen to this. The Pentagon estimated in 2017 that about 71% of people in the United States aged 17 to 24 are ineligible for military service due to either being medically obese.
71%.
Either medically obese, having a criminal record, or not holding a high school level education. So basically that leaves 29% of people in that, if the draft happened, that it would pull from. So if you are in that 29% that you're not obese, you don't have a criminal record, and you have a high school
more likely.
You're way more likely.
Which kind of sucks.
I know.
Like send the ones that are the degenerates.
Well, you don't want to send the obese people.
What not? Front lines?
I guess.
They're not going to do anything here in the home.
I know. So
obviously they've been feasting upon the luxuries of life.
To me, that's insane.
That is insane.
Right. And then one last thing, now that we move past the draft.
That was really unchristian of me, what I said there. I'm sorry.
It was, wasn't it? World War III, it's going to be more devastating than the other two.
Yeah.
That
is a guarantee.
Scary thing, right? The thing is, everybody has, many people have nukes these days.
Yeah.
So those are, if it's a world war,
guaranteed they're going to be involved. There's going to be.
My gosh.
Well, the creepy thing is that the United States even had like the Davy Crockett, like a portable. That still exists somewhere.
Somebody's got that on the back of their Jeep somewhere.
All right.
Yeah.
I haven't fired it in a while.
So just be thinking about that. It's going to be worse. It's not going to. It's not going to be easier.
Yeah, it's going to be terrifying for sure. Mm-hmm. So we want to talk a little bit about the different types of war. So war on foreign soil, probably a little more likely than, but you don't know. I don't know. So a war away from home.
Yes.
So this is, I found this interesting. The Trump White House may still be basking in the glow of America's global supremacy, but just across the, you see how I had to write this out?
Potomac.
Because I said it wrong so many times.
Yeah.
The Pentagon has formed a more realistic view of its fading military superiority. In June, the Defense Department issued a major report on risk assessment of the is it primacy?
Primacy, yeah.
I'm going to say that wrong too. World, finding that the U.S. military no longer enjoys an unassailable position versus state competitors. It no longer can automatically generate consistent and sustained local military superiority at range.
What?
At range.
That's crazy.
And think of all the ones that we're supposed to be protecting.
Oh my God.
They're all at, massive range. This sober assessment led the Pentagon's top strategists to the jarring realization that we can lose. Increasingly, Pentagon planners find the self-image of a matchless global leader provides a flawed foundation for forward-looking defense strategy under post-primacy conditions. This Pentagon report also warned that, like Russia, China is engaged in a deliberate program to demonstrate the limits of U.S. authority. It's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, like Beijing's bid for Pacific primacy and its campaign to expand and control over the South China Sea.
Exactly.
They
those
really,
things we were talking about earlier.
They're just pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
So an invasion.
The crazy thing is that's after a troop buildup. Once Trump got into office, he started spending more money.
Yeah.
And what was it like under Barack?
Nothing.
Like, that's
We
crazy.
started eliminating.
Yeah.
Basically, we almost started
Scares
removing military from the United States. So the naval bases, we have a lot of foreign bases. We're located in Japan. We have a huge base there and things like that, which would probably be a focus too of an attack.
Yeah.
Because we know if they attack Japan, the United States is going to get involved. So they're going to focus on these different areas, most likely. So there's a bunch of kind of cool articles. There's one, Military Times. If you go there and look at what would World War III look like with Russia. So this one first, let's think about if Russia went on the offensive and decided to just let's start a war. It's going to happen in Europe. Most likely they're going to go and invade and take over countries, just like you saw in World War III. I mean, these are all theories of what could happen.
Yeah,
but most likely, they're going to go into Europe and they're going to take over those countries, Latvia and all those that are right next to, with really no opposition. Yeah. And Poland gets stuck in the middle again.
Always. The poor Polish people.
By the time they get to Poland, that's where, NATO forces and everything. But they figure like the NATO forces in the U.S., like what we have there, it will get crushed. Russia will just dominate.
Yeah, they would.
And destroy everything. And so we have to rely on getting forces there by sea and all that. And obviously the Black Sea is going to be dominated by Russia. They're going to take over that whole portion. So it's hard to get the defenses that we need because they're going to have to come through different on the ways. Ends, like France and up. It's going to take forever. So Russia's going to push really far, really fast if they really wanted to. The air battle would be a massive one because Russia has an extremely good air force. We have an air force in, Great Britain, and all those. It'd be like birds in the freaking sky.
Yeah.
So that's one thing about the Russian war is you would see a lot of air battles, like stuff we'd never ever seen.
No.
I thought this was interesting. The Norwegian government has approved 6-month rotations of roughly 300 Marines in Norway through 2018. Well, that was old.
Yeah, it was old.
I think they still do this though because they have gotten like stockpiles of food and everything to supply a force of 15,000 for 30 days of fighting, and would likely provide the footprint for larger forces of Marines.
Oh, that's
so they've actually they've prepared to be able to supply the army with the things they need,
whichever army is coming through there.
Yeah. So it's kind of scary
because they don't have an army, right?
But it's like they know that they need to have something in protection.
Well, that's cool to know.
They know these countries are kind of freaky, but anyway, Russia has tons of military equipment. They have submarines and they have the hypersonic missiles that they're developing. And and the thing that's freaky with Russia is they figure if we went into war with them, they would disable communication devices. Like they've been working on that crap forever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like they've figured out ways to even make Putin invisible, basically. So they've got all kinds of weird, wacky crap. So it would be a terrifying war, and they would really devastate Europe and overwhelm it pretty quick to where it would look a lot like World War II. Yeah, but in a different, obviously more people involved, more deaths, civilians it'd be devastating. Korea has I think they're still using biplanes. They have no
paper airplanes.
They have no air defense system.
Yeah.
They don't have So that's the one advantage we'd have against them. But, we can't fly all the way over there. We've got to get our Navy. And so there would be interference there. And likely they would pull somebody else into it, like China.
Oh, somebody
or
would,
Russia.
Yeah.
Russia and them don't seem to get along, but who knows? But anyway, so the hardest thing for us would be to protect South Korea. That would be a huge, because they have all these soldiers.
Yep.
They're going to go right after South Korea first, and that's going to pull us into it. And so we have air superiority, but we've got to get the planes and everything over there. And I always think of like Korea, a war with them is going to look like, Saturn missiles on. It's like, there's going to be missiles just coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
Splashing in the water, hitting boats, hitting Japan. Like they're going to have so many ballistic missiles. It's going to be ridiculous. But, and there's pros and cons. Like, for example, like England, I think because of their location is what saved them from Germany.
Yeah.
Korea is going to be the same way. It's going to be hard. If they take over South Korea to get into them,
it's going to be
they
tough.
have an advantage in that way. Some disadvantages too, like the country itself's already starving. So
that's not good.
So I mean, Korea is scary to me because they're nuts, and they can send missiles, and they'll probably nuke as many as they can
if they have,
but probably be overwhelmed unless somebody else is backing them.
Mm-hmm.
The Middle East, like I said, they'll punch you in the back of the head and run off, and like this war would be a messy one.
It'd be just like it is. I mean, it's a long, drawn out thing.
Yeah,
like. Yeah.
And thank goodness, we're with Israel, but if we piss them off, like they have amazing pilots, like we would have real problem with that. And then the resources we get from those countries and everything, I didn't go into much detail with them because we've seen it and we're working on it. We're working on that World War III scenario. China, I spent a little more time because they freak me out big time.
Yeah.
So there's an article I think you guys should look at. It's www.com, thenation.com, and it's an article on World War III with China. You should look at it. It's pretty interesting. Obviously, there's some like opinions that they basically, I don't think, one thing you can't ever put into a war is like the patriotism of a different country. Like the United States, yes, we don't have the military like we do, and we would face this, but whereas, Russia's probably the only other country I think that's more, more like patriotic than us, maybe. But anyways, the unity and all that, that's that you can't. There's no way you can assume how well a country will do based on that. But anyway, some things about China that freaked me out. April 2015, the Department of Agriculture reported the U.S. economy would grow by nearly 50% over 15 years. China's would expand by 300%.
Oh, my gosh.
Equaling or surpassing America's around 2030. So they're going to have this massive economy backing whatever they want.
Yeah.
Which is, that freaks me out alone. Education, China tops in math and science.
Yep.
Ours is like falling. We're like in the 30th.
We can barely do basic addition in high school. So
we've got this it's like a chess game, and you don't want to go to a chess match against China.
No.
So that scares me. 2014, China actually took the lead in critical category with 801,000 patents. I'm sure that's way bigger now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nearly half the world's total from China. So they're they're coming up with all these different things. They're like patents, and they're stealing and thieving, and they're taking all this stuff. But the United States had 285,000 for Americans.
Jeez.
Cyber warfare is a huge thing with China too.
Yep.
Washington took the unprecedented step in 2013, filing criminal charges against 5 active duty Chinese cyber officers. So like we have China integrated into our system. Like, I think they know exactly how to wipe it out.
They're watching Trump from his cell phone, probably.
And we just didn't we just develop the Space Force?
Mm-hmm. So, or they're developing or something. I don't know exactly where it's at.
It's pretty funny. Have you seen some of the stuff?
Yeah, people are making fun of it, but it's like we need it.
No, we do need it because China has been working on it forever. They have 14 satellites. Well, more than this, but. They launched 14 satellites into 3 kinds of orbits with more satellites in high orbits, better anti-shielding capabilities than any other system. Jeez. 4 years later, Beijing announced, this was in 2012, that it was on track to cover the whole globe with a constellation of 35 satellites by 2020. So they're just sending up all the stuff for surveillance. Who knows? They're probably weaponizing them, I'm guaranteeing. And they're going to overpower the amount of United States satellites by 2020.
So many satellites up there and start banging into each other.
Well, that's what. Well, even Elon Musk wanted to shoot them all up in there. Yeah. So if you're a photographer of astronomy, it's over.
Yeah,
like you're just gonna have streaks through all of your pictures. But anyways, like the stuff I've been explaining, you can see China is looking at every way to overpower and be like a global nightmare. Really. Yep. Like they have the technology, they have a huge navy, they have
the landmass,
they have the people, they have Space Force 2, Space Force times 10. They're doing all of this to become dominant in every area, and nothing's really stopping them from doing it. And the effect on the economy alone, like think of all the stuff that we have is from China. Like
90% of the things we buy come from China.
And what are we doing too? We're sending out like companies. We have all of our stuff being manufactured in China.
How much debt do they own of ours? A lot.
Yeah.
That's also a problem.
And then countries or companies within the United States are bought and ran by China.
Absolutely.
So it's like they're already in our system. If we go to war with them, like they're already here.
Yep.
And we would have to rely heavily on our Navy, and we're already outnumbered there. Plus Japan's right there. And if they attack Japan, we get pulled into a war with that.
Yep.
And then, all the different, like they have long range missiles. They probably have way more sophisticated nukes. Cyber attacks, like they would just probably just disable all of our stuff in the middle of the ocean,
and we'd be sitting there,
the sitting ducks for them.
Yep.
Yeah. So, they to me are the scariest because they're very smart and they have extremely good technology, and they're going to surpass us in everything.
Yeah.
And so China's freaky, but anyway, I know it's hard to kind of visualize of what a war would be like, but these countries are huge threats and they're terrifying. And at any moment we could go to war with them.
And so that's kind of what it would look like, if it's not here at home, but what types of wars could happen here on our soil? That's where it gets even scarier.
Yeah.
Like
take out the heart before. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's start looking at some of these scenarios. A U.S. invasion. This one is pretty dang hard to do for the United States.
Right.
So that's like if a military force somehow got to our borders and came in and started invading, right?
Red Dawn.
That's right.
Not Red Dong. Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
Oh, Red Dawn.
It's Red Dawn time. So the United States has been physically invaded a few times. The War of 1812, once during the Mexican-American War, several times during the Border War, and once during World War II. We know about that, right?
Yeah.
But many experts have considered the United States to be entirely...
And I always forget Hawaii is considered. I'm like, where?
What's that? I think it was actually a territory at the time. Was that right? Or were they a state?
They were
I think
that's
they
a
were
question.
a territory.
I don't want to say yes or no.
So many experts have considered the United States to be entirely uninvadable, which is good to hear. I like to hear experts say those types of things because of, the country's major industries, reliable and fast supply lines, large geographical size, the geographic location, population size, difficult regional features. The Second Amendment is one of those, armed citizenry, right? And our strong military.
Rednecks.
Rednecks. That's what we're talking about.
Rednecks are really going to cause a problem.
For example, the deserts in the southwestern United States are tough to get through. The Great Lakes in the Midwestern United States, all those types of things. Invasion from the outside of North America would require basically huge, long supply chains across the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean. That is nearly impossible for
That's the one thing that's great about where we're located on the
so
planet.
that makes it really hard.
Plus the traffic.
It's crazy, huh?
Like try and land and bring your tanks inland in California. It's not going to happen.
So basically, if we're going to get
not during rush hour,
if we're actually going to get like a land invasion, it's going to either be from Canada or Mexico. So that's really the only ones we need to worry about right now. So that one's less likely than any of these, but I would say most people or most of those countries wouldn't try that anyways. That wouldn't be the most effective way to do it.
As frustrated as we get with Mexico, in a way,
yeah.
They protect.
They do, a little bit,
a little bit on the bottom.
So, Another way we could get attacked here.
They're a pad between us and other countries.
Nuclear war. This is it's always a possibility, especially with the players that we've been talking about today, right? The US, Russia, UK, we all have nukes. Tons of nukes.
Right.
But also on the list is China, Pakistan, North Korea, maybe Iran, maybe Israel. So
it's
there's
good to hear that all these countries that don't like us have
really nice.
missiles.
So currently,
nuclear missiles.
Currently, there's at least 2,000 tons of weapon-grade nuclear material stored in 40 countries. So basically, that's enough to make more than 40,000 bombs, approximately the size of the one that we dropped on Hiroshima. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Yeah. So thinking about this, it actually wouldn't be that hard for terrorist groups to steal this material and put a bomb together.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. Right. So there's that threat that's
Wasn't
always
the sum of all fears? That's kind of what happened.
I think so. Yeah.
It was like a terrorist group.
Really long time.
Blew up. Yeah.
And it really wouldn't be that hard to smuggle it.
That wasn't from any government. It was just a terrorist group.
So smuggling it into the U.S. wouldn't really even be that hard. A 10 kiloton bomb, which would release as much energy as 10,000 tons of TNT, would only be 7 feet long and weigh 1,000 pounds.
Oh my God.
So it could be done. You could pull it in on a container ship, and there's a lot of different ways they could do that. So certainly Russia has all these strategies for nuclear war with the United States. They've been thinking about it since 1950 or whatever, right?
As soon as they left Germany.
Yeah, they've got plans that they've been working on and make it better for a long, long time. So those are happening. So if we were attacked by a nuke, we've talked about this, I think, before, but there's several areas that they would most likely hit, according to different experts. Air Force bases are the number one places that would get hit because they want to break down, disable that. Missile silos, and a lot of those are close to Air Force bases sometimes. Known nuke sites, those types of things. The Pentagon,
probably not. If you buy an old silo, you might get a nuke right on top of it.
You might get one right up your beehole.
Open the doors, let it come in.
Yeah. The Pentagon's going to get hit, and then obviously the large population centers would be some of the next things. So think about those. So like I said, if World War III breaks out and Russia and the U.S. are involved in this, it's really, really high percentage chance that nukes are going to get involved. Somewhere. Yeah. Right? And like we said, we've talked about this before. We've talked about fallout. We've talked about blast radius. We've talked about nuclear winters. These are bad things. Let's just pray that nuclear war doesn't happen. But if it's World War III, I don't see how it gets avoided. I really don't.
There's no way.
It's going to be really hard. And then also, an EMP comes into that because they could, do a high altitude.
We're not going to drop it right on.
Yep.
We'll just knock the grid out.
And they say 90% of people in the United States would die within the first year.
2 months.
Or whatever. Yeah, the first week.
The first hour.
First week, yeah. So that's a nuclear war. Another one that could come to our shores is a cyber war. And this will absolutely most likely be part of World War III. Yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right? It's just going to happen. They call this World War 3.0.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, right? Because it's cyber war.
Well, what better way of, rendering a military inefficient is take out command.
So, we talked about World War I. There were some new weapons there, like airplanes, poison gas, submarines. World War II, we dropped some nukes, right? That was new. World War III, it's going to be cyber weapons. It's going to be cyberspace. It's going to be hacking.
It's going to be like a line of military guys with tablets.
Like Dell computers. You know what I mean? That's dude, you're getting
PlayStations.
Dell. Yeah, PlayStations. We don't know.
Hacked.
So if you think about what could happen with cyber warfare, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about this, but it's worth going over again. So it wouldn't be out of line that they could, pipeline explosions. Those could happen.
Yeah.
Nuclear reactor meltdowns. Power grid shutting off, air traffic control systems being all wonky, and you know how many planes we got in the air. It's like 100,000 missiles coming down on the United States, right? Weapon system sabotage. All those types of things could happen without them leaving.
Turn your smart lights to strobe and just seizure everybody out.
Turn them to dumb lights, like you said, right?
Open and close your garage door like a million times.
You wouldn't be able to sleep for a week.
Your TV shut off, turn on, turn off, shut off.
It'd be horrible. But they wouldn't have to leave the comfort of their bunker. They could do all of that.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen, right? And really, it could have some of the same devastating effects cyber war could as nuclear war. Because if you shut down a couple nuclear plants and let them overheat and
Oh yeah,
it's the same thing, dude.
They've and we talked about that, how they've gotten into the computer system before, like through the first line of defense, and watched like people like typing around.
Exactly. So it's every bit as devastating as a nuclear war, cyber war.
Easy, yeah.
I mean,
that's scary.
The hospitals would shut down. I mean, there's so many things. No more food coming in. It's devastating.
The time clock would get all messed up.
Exactly, yeah. No more podcasts.
Podcasts.
It's all gone, yeah. And you never know. The president runs the country on Twitter. It could get hacked. You know what I mean? That would be bad. So
I can't tell you how many times I've been like, oh, I hope that was a hack. Nope, that was just him.
That was him sitting on the pod at 4 a.m. Just like, I want to see what happens.
It's just like, blows
Crazy.
my mind. I'm like, man, I hope he was hacked. No, it was just him.
No, that was really him. And the last thing, and a thing that we've actually been dealing with quite a bit is terrorist attacks, right? Depending on who the enemies are, they could coordinate a bunch of homeland terrorist attacks. I mean, just think about 9/11 over and over and over again. Like they could just coordinate 20 of them in a row. I mean, what would we do? I know we're looking for them. We have Homeland Security, but geez Louise, those are some of the hardest things to stop, right? So those are a lot of the types of different wars that could happen here on our own soil.
That is freaky deal.
It's super
freaky deaky.
Freaky, dude. So that's what we have for you today. And that's part one. Part two, we're going to talk more about like, okay, here's what it could be. And we talked about that today. How do we prep for this?
Yeah.
What do we do to get ready?
So the prepper aspect, we're going to go into more detail. So this history lesson, and hopefully we terrified you about our countries that we work with.
This history lesson brought to you by Survival Boxes.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Hey, Kobe, if you are a casual prepper, are you a casual prepper? I screwed that up. Outdoor adventurer or survivalist, you need a Survival Boxes subscription. Did you know that? Survival Boxes are packed with practical survival gear, 15 to 25 years shelf life, storable meals. Can't ration that, huh? Survival water or filtration supplies, a monthly survival knowledge card, and even non-GMO heirloom seeds for your survival garden or victory garden.
Yes, sir.
Starting at just $29 per month. Choose the survival box that fits your outdoor adventuring lifestyle or casual prepping plan or World War III prepping plan. Subscribe today and Survival Boxes will send you the survival gear and supplies to help you stay survived. Survival Boxes values always beat Amazon cart values, and there are no contracts, so you can cancel anytime. Don't forget to use the promo code Casual Preppers. Get 10% off your first box on any of those monthly subscription boxes. Plus, Casual Prepper listeners will also receive a free survival knowledge card complete set and bonus survival gear into your first survival box. Subscribe today. Go to survivalboxes.com right now.
Yes, sir. Do it.
So,
It's time for the quick and dirty medical tip.
So I just wanted to kind of briefly talk about the coronavirus.
I just feel like I need a beer with a lime in it.
You do. Because this is where it came from drinkers and stuff. But
I actually saw that they said they think it came from a snake.
Oh, really?
I saw an article about that. Yeah, it came from a snake.
Weird. I thought it was like camels and bats. They got all kinds of weird stuff over there.
It's a snake virus.
So
I could be wrong, though. I don't know.
That would be the first thing on my list. If you got camels and bats and snakes,
kill them right now. Kill every one of them.
But the good thing about the coronavirus is that it's really similar to like the flu in prevention, and I just wanted to talk about that.
Okay,
so,
great.
One, if you get the coronavirus, fever, cough, shortness of breath, it's very flu-like, cold. If you're healthy, taking your vitamins and minerals, you should be okay.
Do you think you're going to have anybody come in the office? I think I got the coronavirus.
I don't know. I hope not. I will say yesterday was the first time that like this little girl was super sick, throwing up, that I put on a mask to see her. And I'm like, I should do this more.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was like freaked out. But it was just the flu. Anyway, so here's some advice.
Tell that to people in 1918.
Oh man, if I go back in time,
Just
I'm taking N95 masks.
Yeah. Make a killing.
Steps for people confirmed to have or being evaluated for 2009 coronavirus. So, stay at home except to get medical care. It's one thing that drives me nuts is people like go in, try and make a same day appointment, or wait until you're like super sick, and that really makes medical care way easier for us because you're dying. No, I'm just kidding. But really, like, if you're like, we've talked about the basics before. If you have a fever, that's good. If it can't be controlled by medicines, that's probably a good sign you should go be seen. If you can't breathe and you're coughing up like thick, nasty crap, then you probably should be seen. But most of the time, like, give it some time at home. The exposure in the ER is probably far more risky than actually going or, staying home and letting it get worse. Most of the time, you should be able to tell these symptoms. Call ahead, make an appointment, and say, I traveled to China. I need to be taken care of in a special way.
I wrestled snakes in China. Do I get coronavirus?
So I guess step number 1, don't go to China right now.
Yeah, don't
2,
do it.
If you've been there in the last 2 weeks, because the incubation period's like 7 to 14. Wear a face mask, if you're freaked out, who cares if you look dumb? You're keeping yourself safe from all the other garbage this winter.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then it's spread by droplets, so cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. I can't believe how many adults don't do this still.
Yeah.
Wash your hands, soap and water. We talked about that, how alcohol is not enough.
Yeah.
Water alone is better than just alcohol, and then soap and water. Avoid sharing household items. If you use that side of the bra, switch it up. Have somebody else. If you saw my post, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then monitor your symptoms. So before going to your medical appointment, call the healthcare provider, like I said, and tell them, I think I was in China, and
I think I was in China.
I want to. So you've got to take different precautions if you've been exposed or you think you've been exposed. Like, call ahead, don't just show up. You need to take this seriously and put a mask on, protect other people. Like, people are super selfish nowadays.
Oh yeah.
I see people all the time that I've seen in the clinic tested positive, go to the grocery store and they're shopping, no mask
Sneezing on the asparagus.
It pisses me off. So yeah, I know this is real basic stuff, but like, protect yourself. You can go get masks before they sell out. Look at China, for example.
Yeah.
Like, go get some now. Order some from Amazon today.
If they're coming from China, is that good or bad?
This already has a shape of a mouth on it.
This already has
Got lipstick in it.
Pre-coronavirus infected.
Maybe you want a light exposure.
Yeah.
Just get it over
I don't know.
But like, treat it as a flu, wash your hands, wear a mask. If anybody's traveled to China, then you probably should let your healthcare provider know.
Don't hang out
so
with
they
them.
can prepare ahead of time in taking care of you. They're probably going to throw you in a gas chamber. Just get rid of it. And then just practice, safe sex.
Exactly.
No, just like washing your hands and being careful. It's a scary deal because it's spreading and it's becoming a problem, but it really isn't a whole lot different than common cold, flu, and all those.
Because it's killing the same
it's the extremes of
right?
age, like the young and the
it's
already
just scary because it's a new thing.
It is.
And
It is a scary thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're getting all the information from China.
No.
So
They already have a patent on this virus, probably.
they probably do.
Anyways,
so
that's good
just be
stuff.
careful.
Okay. Well, Cameron, thank you. It was good information
that was
today.
a long episode, huh?
That was a long one. And make sure to come back in 2 weeks and you're going to get the second half of this episode, World War 3 Part 2.
Whoa.
World War 3 Part 2. So anything else, Cameron?
No, that's it.
Okay, see ya.